What's up, Ham Fam? Welcome back to another episode of Hard as a Mother. And I am your host, Jizzy. And here with me, as always, is my lovely co-host, Harleen.
Hi, guys. First of all, I feel like you need to start saying, I'm your hostess with the mostest.
No, Brian makes fun of me
No,
when I
but
say that.
Brian loves it when you do that.
All right. Let me start over.
Okay.
I'm your hostess with the mostest, Brian. Jizzy. And if you guys are new and just tuning in, we're just two moms on a mission to create a safe space for other moms and dads, or anyone really, to talk about the honesty and the realness that comes with parenting, and also being able to laugh at yourself, because you got to do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, thank you so much. I always have this amazing introduction from you. So anyways, what's up, Ham Fam? Here we are again. Christmas is just literally around the corner, and I understand that we are all gearing up. Like before, we would gear up to go and spend some time with our family. However, that's just not the case. So I know it totally sucks. And there's a lot of commotion happening within our city, provinces, around the world. But just at the end of the day, just whatever your opinion is, just be kind to one another. I think that's the most important message here. The most important message. And if there's anyone that needs any type of conversation, just slide right into our DMs, and Jizzy and I are happy to, have any type of conversations, or if you want to vent or anything like that, we're happy to be of support.
Yes, we are here. We got your back.
Yeah. And also, while we're all about to go on lockdown, don't forget to click, share, subscribe onto our YouTube. And we are now officially on Facebook. So it's a great time to go check out all of our episodes and just, it's like another Netflix. Just binge on
Just
all
binge
the
us,
ham.
please. Just binge us. You have nothing better to do. Just do it. All right, let's get down to it. So today we're shedding light on how to educate yourselves on a topic that nobody really talks about and is very, very just kind of hidden. So every child on this earth obviously must be free from sexual abuse and exploitation. Today we have the honor of having Angela Nguyen, who is the president of One Body Village Canada, which is a registered Canadian charity whose mission is to end child sexual exploitation and rebuild the lives of child victims in Southeast Asia. So welcome, Angela Nguyen.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me here. I'm the honored one. You two fierce mamas.
Oh,
Oh,
you.
no, I mean,
Oh, you.
we truly lucked out because you're currently living in Toronto,
Yes,
and
I am.
and you just so happen to be in Calgary. So it's super amazing. So
Yeah.
thank you for taking the time.
Yep. And shout out to our past guest, Kiara Nguyen, who, I don't know if you saw Kiara, she was on our episode about, it was called School Days.
Yeah.
And we talked about kids in lockdown. So she was also on our show. So thank you, Kiara, for connecting us
Thanks,
with
Kiara.
Angela. It's such an honor. So we know that child exploitation is a huge thing right now. Here in Calgary, over the last couple months, there have been incidents that I've seen on Facebook where, there were attempted abductions, and there were actually some abductions and arrests that were made.
Yeah.
So although this is happening in the city, can you tell us a little bit more about what you do and what your mission is in Southeast Asia?
Yeah. Child sexual exploitation and abuse is not just a local problem. It's not a national, international, specific to any country. It is a global problem. The Global Slavery Index in 2018 estimated that there are 40.3 million victims of human trafficking worldwide. About 15.9 million of those are children forced into marriages, so forced marriage.
Yeah.
And then the rest are in labor and sexual exploitation.
So as you say this, Angela, I want our viewers, and to all the moms and to all the dads, or not just that, just take that in, 40 million. And think about your kids, think about your grandkids, think about your nieces, think about your neighbors, think about your friends. They could be any one of those. It is a problem, and we need to start shedding light on that, because I feel like we just hear it on the news, but it is literally a crisis, I'd have to say.
Well, yeah, I think it is the gravest assault to human rights today. It's human trafficking and exploitation. And I believe it was the UN didn't recognize it as a crime against humanity until the year 2000.
Wait, I'm sorry. That's
a ridiculous statement.
That was
right there.
just 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And you're saying that we didn't even acknowledge it.
No.
That's only 2 decades.
And it wasn't even talked about this much. And it's still not very much.
No,
No,
it's
not
not.
at all.
Until maybe 10 years ago. So within the last 10 years, it's gotten more attention. And so of that 40 million victims of human trafficking, it's estimated that 25% of those are children. And that holds true for Canada as well. So 25% of victims of human trafficking in Canada that have been identified were children under 18. And they're primarily exploited for sex in Canada.
So are these children coming from different countries into Canada, or is it just happening right into our backyards and they're just exploiting children?
Whoever's there.
Yeah. So victims in Canada are predominantly from Canada. The highest risk are those from immigrant not immigrant communities, but Native First Nations communities, runaway youth, homeless youth, LGBTQ community. It's just so sad that it's our problem here, and it's also our problem elsewhere, because children deserve our protection. Mm-hmm. They deserve dignity. They are owed freedom, and that's been stripped away from them. So our mission in Southeast Asia is to rescue. Our mission is directed towards children under the age of 18.
Yeah.
And we provide shelter, education, medical care, psychological counseling, vocational training for our older girls, so that these children can rebuild their lives and live the lives that you and I have, that is free from abuse and exploitation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you started volunteering at 22 years old.
Yeah.
And now you oversee like the global programs of Vietnam and Cambodia, and probably expanding.
Mm-hmm.
So kudos to you. Not even kudos. Like I don't even know. I don't even have a word to.
Yeah.
I just want to give you a big hug and thank you.
You're so kind. Thank you.
So tell us how you were introduced to this to this organization, and why are you passionate about this program or organization?
Yeah, for sure. So I was born and raised here in Calgary, actually. I'm a diehard Calgarian.
So are we.
I haven't changed my phone number or my area code on my phone.
You're 403 forever.
Yeah, 403 forever. And my parents were refugees after the Vietnam War.
Mm-hmm.
And we grew up in Forest Lawn here. Mm-hmm. And so, I never had very much growing up. My parents did janitorial jobs, 3 jobs a day, more than 16 hours a day for 30-some years. And after my background, I'm a nurse by trade. And when I graduated, I worked for a year. I saved up my money, and I took my parents back to Vietnam. And that was the first time they've been there in over 30 years.
Wow.
And that was the first time I went there, too. And I was introduced to a friend. It's also very serendipitously, like how we were introduced as well. So I think everything kind of works out that way. And she was a volunteer for One Body Village. It's actually been around for the last 21 years.
You said it originated in the States, right?
Yes, it originated in the States. And she just told me this story that just stuck with me. Even to this day, I think it still gives me a crack in my throat. But she went undercover with the founder of the organization. He's actually a priest now. He wasn't a priest then. And I believe she was in Thailand. She was undercover in Thailand, and she was just talking to a young girl in a club. They they have one like those dancing clubs that
Yeah.
line up in the streets. Everybody's outside and they kind of pull you in and
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, she was talking to this young girl who did not look any older than 16,
Excuse me. Sorry.
And all of a sudden, the girl, she saw a man walk in. There was this look of terror over her face.
Mm-hmm.
She cowered under a table, started rocking herself and crying. And until the man left, and my friend Kelly was asking her what was wrong, and she said that man bought her the night before. He raped her all night long. He had her tied to a 4-post bed. And that just stuck with me. It stuck with me because after I learned more about what child sexual exploitation really is, and how young these kids could be, when I read about it before, they say the average age of entry of a child into the commercial sex trade industry is 12 to 14. Our youngest girl that we take care of right now, she's 4. Yeah. A 4-year-old girl that was sold to 73 men.
I can't. Holy shit. My daughter's 4.
Yeah. Yeah. And most of the time, these parents over there are tricked, are lured, promised something into giving up their child. They're not villains or that willingly sell their children out of malice.
Of course.
Because they're so desperate. I mean, they have a family of 10 to feed, and they make less than $5 a day.
Mm-hmm.
Something's got to give, and that's the thing that they know that's most lucrative for them.
Yeah.
But then other times there are parents who sell their children knowing that's what's going to happen to them. Sometimes they sell their children's virginity for less than $250 US. And then in turn, men buy these children's virginity for upwards of $10,000, $20,000, $40,000 US dollars to use her for that one night. And then now she's tossed aside, and you can buy a child, have sex with her for $80 a night.
This is stuff that you've uncovered in Thailand or just in general?
Yes, these are not stories I've read. These are stories that...
these are actual girls you've rescued?
These are actual cases and actual experiences.
So
I'm not talking out of my ass,
Well, you are the president, so
Yeah, we trust you.
so
Not making shit up here.
I don't think anybody who would make shit up like this is fucked up. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So I don't think you're fucked up, but that's not what I was meaning to say. But anybody who would make something up like this is pretty gross.
But
So
it sounds so unbelievable.
right,
It does.
It does.
It's like...
But
go ahead.
And this is not the most gruesome of it all,
I can't even speak.
This is just like the tip of the iceberg.
Oh, yeah.
And why do you think that is? It's one of the world's most controversial problems. People talk about it, and it's very, very like taboo. Like the rich people will get away with it, and it's kind of like people turn the other cheek. Why do you think it's not talked about enough and covered in the news, or
Or our government hasn't
anything.
fucking done anything about it.
Yeah.
If you really want my opinion of why it's not covered, I would challenge you to think that who is profiting from children? So, like, for example,
Jeffrey Epstein.
Biden. Oh, what?
yes, like, the rich and powerful can do a lot of things, can cover a lot of things up, can control the media and the narrative so that we turn a blind eye. Why don't we see more news of Ghislaine Maxwell, what's going on with her, but we have to be inundated with numbers relating to COVID every day. Every day. If they just reported the way that they report with COVID, the number of missing children that occurs every single day, would people sound the alarm? Would people care? Or is it still so gruesome, so horrible, so overwhelming that people still don't care? I mean, you know, when we think of these numbers, a quarter of 40 million people, 10 million children, that number is too much.
Yeah.
So
Actually,
it's hard for us to care.
Yeah. I got a new phone, and Google sends me like every day notice of how many cases are in Alberta or even in Canada. And I had to turn it off because I'm like, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. I'm just over it. I want it to be over. I'm doing my part, and that's all that matters. But can you imagine if the government did that and the media did that when it comes to these horrific crimes that are being done everywhere?
I'm sorry, then our phone will be blowing up every day by the minute.
sure.
We have Amber Alerts.
Yeah.
And you know, okay, speaking of Amber Alerts.
Oh, I got something to say about that.
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Maybe we're going the same place.
Maybe we are. So there was a recent Amber Alert probably a couple months ago, and some jackass was upset that
Okay, we're on the same
they
page.
got woken up.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, listen up, buddy. If it was your niece, your whatever, and was stolen, you're going to be pissed. Like, it just makes me so, like, I want to drop every fucking F-bombs there is. And, you know, I'm trying not to swear so much. But really, like, really, that's all I have to say is you got woken up by the one little small text message because a child's life is in danger.
Exactly.
I guess we just got the answer to our question then, because some people just don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Like if
I
you're
really
gonna be
wish that
mad-
shit. I really wish that person get drafted. I shouldn't even say
No,
that.
don't say that out loud.
I shouldn't
we know
say
what
that
you're thinking.
out loud. But the thing is, you know what? I don't want to wish bad stuff on people. But my God.
Yeah, have some empathy.
Well,
Yeah.
here's the thing, and it's a lot of conversations that I have with people. Is I was like, where is our humanity? Is
Yeah.
it missing? What happened to it?
I honestly don't really think it was there. I know that's very cynical to say. It's just, look at how much, like, I was just going to bring this up too. Look at Australia right now and New Zealand. They are living COVID free. They're doing whatever the fuck they want. Here we are fucking on lockdown, can't see anybody because there are still people who don't give a shit. And when they interviewed like scientists in Australia, they were saying it's because everybody did their part and not for themselves. It was for each other. And then there's Canada where there's fucking anti-protests like downtown. You know what? I know I'm going off topic here and off course, but this is what I mean. Like, people don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Because people are, I feel like if it doesn't happen to them or within their circle, it's like they're like, oh, poor whatever, but
But they don't do anything.
they don't do anything. And then there's this one, you know, I've seen things on Netflix or, you know, where there's a mom that's really charging on a mission and will die till her last breath fighting for certain things like that. It's just, I ask people, dig deep and ask yourself, where is your humanity?
For sure. I mean, to answer one of your questions, why I'm so passionate about this is because when I went over there and I learned about this, I saw these kids, you know, in front of me that have been through unimaginable suffering. Reflecting back on my life and thinking, wow, I thought I had nothing. I thought, you know, life was so terrible that I had to, you know, have hand-me-downs and couldn't
Chores.
have new things because my parents couldn't afford it. But hey, at least I just feel like I won a life lottery
Yeah.
by being born in Canada. And if my parents never left Vietnam and they were poor and desperate, where would my life be? You know,
Yeah.
even though we had little, I still have a million times more opportunities than than kids in developing countries.
So I'm really curious, and I'm sure our listeners are too. So can you walk us through what your organization does and how you're helping these victims?
Yeah, so our approach is rescue, rebuild, rescue, restore, rebuild, and as well as lastly combat child sexual exploitation. So our rescue, how that looks like, I can't divulge everything, but there's many ways that we can rescue children, from direct outreach and crisis intervention. We are very well known in Vietnam. We've had now this incredible presence there we've been in Vietnam for over 10 years now. People know us, people know our name, and people know that they can trust us to ask for help when there is a child in crisis.
So because you guys are so big down there, and because you brought up the fact that, rich people can get away with anything, do you guys ever get like death threats or people saying like, I don't like what you're doing, stop, kind of thing?
Oh my gosh, yes. So we were located in Thailand before as well. Our home was burnt down 5 times.
Wow.
And we just can't get a foot in there. It's just so unsafe for us. And again, because we don't have protection from the government over there, we're not, we don't have that relationship as we do in Vietnam. So we had to take ourselves out of there. Not me personally, because I don't do the rescue, but our country director over there has had many threats to her and her family. Our founder, Father Martino, because he's been doing this for 21 years. He's stepped back now as a leader, but he has been in jail maybe 10 plus times. He's had every bone broken in his body.
The founder?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So when you say you guys rescue, obviously your friend went undercover and the founder at the time went undercover. So yes, the victims can come reach. What other things does your organization do to find these victims?
Now, because it's so unsafe for us to mix the rescue and our aftercare programs. We work with other organizations as well that do rescue.
Okay.
They have relationships with national police, local police.
Oh, that's good then.
So that they're really well protected,
Okay.
And then we're kind of that silent, they've rescued. Yeah. Nobody knows of our partnership.
Yeah. And
then they can refer them to us as well.
Okay, so you mentioned local government authorities. I'm going to be real.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Developing countries, some of them are part of that organized crime.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
I think only maybe, this is just me from my experience. No, not a real number, I'm not sure. But I would say who you can trust over there, maybe 1 in 10. Well, that's very generous.
Here's the thing is we were having conversations. Actually, I got to give a shout out to my sister-in-law because I was telling you earlier is I needed to do a couple fact checks. I picked up the phone. I called her. We had like a 10-minute conversation. It got me really all wild up. And what the conversation we had was how come government hasn't shed light? And you were saying because they're powerful. However, how do you know that the people that you're in partnership with, they can trust that they're actually going to protect them or protect these people and not just say, okay, we're going to help, so it optically looks like they are? How do you know who you can even trust, even through government or the local authorities?
Mm-hmm. Well, because we've been there for so long, that we've built these lasting relationships with specific people. And I'm telling you, like 1 or 2 people that we can trust in Vietnam that help us and that don't take money. Government asks for bribes all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, of course.
I totally, yeah.
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 If we want something done, we have to pay them off,
Yep.
right? And these people that we work with, they don't take any money, which is so amazing. So there are angels out there. Not everyone is bad and evil, but there's a lot of evil out there for sure. Let me tell you this one story of corruption. Okay?
Please.
Oh, God.
So this was maybe about 5 years ago. That I went to Malaysia with a group of volunteers with Father Martino. Half the group did undercover. They're mostly the men. I am terrible at it. I did it once and I almost screwed up everything. So I can tell you about that later too. I was awful. I'm a very terrible actor. And so the men were taken. They're going out for a night. It's more of them for them to understand what's going on. Not really to do anything. No one's going to rescue anyone because they're not trained people.
Yeah.
So they got into a taxi, told the taxi, we want girls, we want to party, have a good time. So the taxi driver took them to this, we were downtown in Kuala Lumpur, took them to this high-rise bank building, won't name what it was, 30-something floor up there, and it was a club. And it's kind of just like the movies that you would think of. Go behind another door, there's a secret club.
Yeah.
Okay, glass everywhere, row of women comes strolling out. They are not even given the dignity of a name. It's just a
Number.
and color representing your race and ethnicity. The lighter skinned you are, the higher your price. And the owner of this brothel, you have to think that Malaysia is a Muslim country and prostitution is illegal.
Yeah.
The owner of this brothel was the chief of police.
Yep.
It's almost like, how do you even how do you even bring them down?
The prince in Malaysia frequents all these brothels.
And of course, he's got billions of dollars.
Well, yeah. I mean, the reason why that this exists today is because of money, right?
Yeah.
Greed, money, it's lucrative. It's exploiting the most vulnerable people. And why we don't shed light on it is because the most powerful people control our world.
So
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
because you bring that up, then I want to segue into what we were talking about before, which was on my mind and maybe a lot of people's minds out there, is the whole allegations with like Pizzagate and Wayfair. And, this is just stuff that is looked at in like the dark web and like, it's not very, you can't really find information on it just by doing a Google search. But when people actually look into it, it's like, there's pictures, there's videos, there's all these different things. So does your organization kind of go after stuff like that? Or is it kind of just like, there's not enough proof, we're not really going to touch it?
Or you don't have enough resources to do that.
Yeah, for sure. For one, we're still very small fry compared to a lot of other organizations that do amazing work in technology, combating online child sexual exploitation, like all that stuff. What I can say about Pizzagate and the Wayfair thing, I mean, it's a lot of speculation, not a lot of evidence to back it up. So, and maybe if there was evidence, was it quickly covered up? Like all the what was going on with Jeffrey Epstein.
100%.
I mean,
Yeah.
it took like 15 years to bring that guy down, and somehow he mysteriously died in jail.
Mysteriously.
Well,
Mysteriously.
mysteriously, because, anyways, we could talk about that forever.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, continue.
But what we do have, the FBI in the States does have evidence. They have this document of secret pedophile codes. So pictures and code images that pedophiles use as kind of like I don't know what you call it, their little pervert community that they can identify each other. The FBI does have that. So it's not far-fetched that there is some...
They're just finding different ways to be technology savvy in a disgusting way.
Yeah.
Just trying to be creative.
Well, like, yeah, creative. And like that people just, you know, we shop online, we don't do those things. But little do we know, when we shop online on Amazon or any of those big organizations, some people are shopping for kids.
It is.
Like, let that sink in your, for everybody who shops online, let this sink in your head. There's people who shop for kids online.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can, well, now with COVID and restrictions on international travel, pedophiles are not hurt in any way because they can just buy children online, meaning they can exploit a child. Let's say an American can go on the dark web or some sort of messaging network system and have a child in Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
Strip, do whatever on the webcam, and so then he would pay their family members for that material.
So we want to talk about the power of social media technology. There's a case actually in the Philippines where an uncle actually blindfolded his niece and nephew, who was 7 and 12, put his underwear in his phone and blindfolded them, told them to look for it while he recorded it, uploaded it to YouTube, got paid. What do you think the responsibility of these platforms of cracking disgusting fucking people like that? What? I mean, yes, the guy who did it he's disgusting, but there is onus and responsibility of people who run these platforms.
100%, I agree with you. Everyone has to be held accountable. But that's the sick thing is that these platforms, there's a clause in there that they're not responsible for what their users upload.
Really?
So, yeah. So, for example, very recently, just in the recent days, Pornhub. Have you heard about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually, I told my spouse, Mark, I was like, stop watching Pornhub and tell all your friends to fucking stop watching Pornhub. He's like, okay, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, it's just stop. You got to stop. And, you know, of course he's not going to be like, hey guys, Giselle said stop using Pornhub, you know, but like the things that I read about, I'm just like, not okay.
Yeah, so there was an expose from Nicholas Kristof. He is a writer for the New York Times, and he wrote another really great book about child trafficking, actually, called Half the Sky. And he wrote about, because he works with survivors as well, and survivors from Pornhub that had their images, videos of child sexual abuse and rape on video, uploaded, watched hundreds of thousands of times. They're fighting to have that removed, and Pornhub would not remove it. So that was the expose in the New York Times.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one I was reading about. Yeah.
And then they still didn't do much about it until Visa and MasterCard threatened to remove their services from Pornhub. Okay, so you have to hit them where it hurts, is in their pockets, for them to do something about it. Oh, suddenly, after all these years that you've had this problem that you did not fix, suddenly, within 2 days of Visa and MasterCard threatening that, they removed 10,000 images, or 10,000 videos of unverified material that included child sexual abuse material.
And only because they were threatened with that.
Because one, their Visa and MasterCard were probably sponsors, or whatever deals,
you pay,
whatever you pay, deal, ads,
Pornhub.
whatever. So now that you've mentioned that, I think we should also talk to large enterprises who sponsor and do these things to make sure that there is a clause on their contract that they can't have these things. Is that something that your organization tries to chase after large organizations and say, hey, listen, this is the work that we do. We don't want anything from you, but all we want you to know is, put these in your contracts, do back checks. I don't know. Like, I mean, I don't know what they can do, but if it's going to hurt them in their pockets for them not being sponsors, I think it's we have a responsibility, not just the organization, but the people who work, or the CEOs or COOs or whoever signs these contracts and deals.
For sure. I mean, we're one of many organizations, many individuals who care enough to raise our voice, to get loud for children, and to try and enact some positive change. We can't keep rescuing children. That's just that's the Band-Aid. That's not the prevention. We want to see a world where no child is ever hurt. No child is ever a victim from violence and exploitation. But again, so we do get involved in lobbying our government and things like that. But then again, because people profit off the abuse of children, of women, and of men, when is it going to change?
Yeah. So you traveled to Cambodia and Vietnam, like you said. Are there any talks of one body expanding to other, well, obviously every country has some level of this crime, but is that in the works, do you think?
Yes. So I'm very excited to tell you, COVID did curb a bit of our plans.
Fucking
of course.
COVID.
I know, fuck COVID. We were supposed to expand to Malaysia this November, but they were on a very strict lockdown there.
Yeah.
So we have already the funding, the personnel, the plan, the strategy, and so we are just waiting for the lockdowns to be lifted so that we can be there. So hopefully early next year. Yep.
Hear that, Malaysia? They're coming for you.
We're coming for you.
I watched this documentary where this guy actually travels to different countries and he actually lures people, pedophilias, even like moms and dads that are doing it to their children. And I'm sorry to say, but there's people in Canada and the U.S. that are traveling to underdeveloped countries. And sometimes they're not rich people. They use this as their source of income. Like, how disgusting is that? So what do you think the government, our government, or the U.S. government needs to do to crack down to say, you bring disgrace to our country, this is what we're going to do to you?
Well, for one, I think we need to restrict travel to all the offenders, child sexual abusers in Canada, and they're not allowed to travel. That's one thing that I think we should do.
They shouldn't even get a fucking pardon, period. Once you do the crime, don't get a second chance on child exploitation.
Well, yeah, I mean, in Canada and the States, sometimes a sentence for some drug-related offense is much longer than raping someone.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
How
the justice system is just really fucked up.
Well,
like,
Yeah.
like you can, when they were talking about like anti-abortion laws and stuff like that, like you can get in trouble for getting an abortion, but the person who raped you will walk away.
Yeah.
Which is really fucked up.
Yeah.
And they blame the person who is the victim, actually.
Yeah, a lot of victim blaming.
Yeah.
And, for those who are Canadians abusing children overseas, since the 1990s, less than 10 people have ever been convicted of exploiting children overseas in Canada.
Since the 90s.
Since the 90s. I think there are a lot more than 10 people.
Oh, yeah.
But why do we not catch them? That, you know, they roam around with impunity over in developing countries because money talks. They can just pay somebody off. There's not enough evidence. You know, our justice system, the criminal justice system doesn't serve victims. It serves the criminals, right?
Yeah.
And so if they're demanding video or hard evidence, oftentimes you're not going to get it.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we keep allowing these monsters to travel, to exploit those who are vulnerable, and to harm these kids for life. Even just one incidence of abuse can affect that child for life, way into adulthood. And that holds true for all of our children that we have in our homes. You know, they at first glance, if you came to our house and you'd be like, oh, wow, they're all laughing and playing. I get the feedback that all the time they look so normal. Well, for one, they're living in a safe and protected environment, so they can be free to be children. But you're not there when they wet the bed at night when they're 15 years old. They have recurring nightmares. They can't be alone in the bathroom because that's where their uncle and their father raped them.
Yeah.
A lot of PTSD.
A 10-year-old girl who has to wear a diaper because everything is ruined in the inside and she's incontinent of urine. You know, and then now that we've been around for so long and we've helped these children into their young adult lives, some of our girls are, you know, still battle with thoughts of suicide and low self-worth and low self-esteem. Others that are on antidepressant medications for 5 years and can't function and hold a full-time job because it's just so much trauma that she holds, even with the best of care that we can give her.
Suicide, too.
Yeah. And a recurring topic we have on this show all the time, almost every episode, is childhood trauma. This is absolutely the worst of it.
Yeah.
And the least talked about.
Yeah.
Which is pretty fucked up if you think about it.
It is. I mean, it is so dark, you know, and it's much easier to raise money for a childhood disease, which is terrible, of course, or you know, an after-school program or something like that. But it's not easy to get in front of a group of people, you know, hundreds of people, and talk about this because it just brings everyone down.
Yeah. So we know that socioeconomics plays a huge factor in child exploitations. So I'm sure people heard the story, and you probably have. So there was a case in Peterborough, Ontario, where police arrested 8 people. They did a 3-day operation where they communicated with 36 adults who believed they were speaking to children. And even one who drove like over 300 kilometers to meet who they thought was a child. So obviously they got arrested on scene. What advice would you give to parents on educating their children about online, and what steps can parents take so their children doesn't fall victim with these pedophiles? I understand that because of the socioeconomics of it, but there's some victims that do fall for this that are in great homes, but their parents haven't been vigilant about online presence and they're not educated on it.
Well, yeah, I hear you. You know, Interpol released a report in September. Across the globe, there is increased spike, don't know the number exactly, of predators approaching children over social media.
We were talking about this. I think it went, they said something like it was like 40,000 and it went to like 80 to 90,000. That's like 3 or 4 times.
Just exponential
crazy
numbers, right? Because again, we're forced to stay home. Children are more pushed to be online more. can't go out and play or do anything that you want to and have, healthy interactions. So they're on their phone all the time. They're approached on Facebook, on WhatsApp, on TikTok by predators who, the facade of, hey, I want to be your friend. I want to get to know you, something like this. They may act like they're a kid of their age, but they're actually, a grown-ass man asking for nude pictures of the child.
Yeah.
After you build a little bit of a relationship, So my advice to to parents is the exact same as how we treat our children over in Vietnam and Cambodia, is that you just have to talk to your children, know your children. It's just so easy to kind of be stuck doing our own thing, being stressed at work, coming home, and our children are off to the side, and we're just not cohesive anymore. So get to know your children and do talk to them freely about this. Just as long as they know the dangers of it, it's better than not knowing. And then the children are actually quite smart, and they can be very intuitive. And once you've taught them of these dangers of being online, don't trust everyone that approaches you online.
Yeah.
And building that trust with your child so that when they are in a situation, they know that they can come to you without being judged. Yeah. And one thing, children are just afraid of not being believed.
Yeah, that's 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I get
being a supportive parent, to be someone that your kids turn to is very important.
So what would you say to parents, and also not just parents, to people when they see or they have an inkling feeling or they have how people have intuitions? How can they be vigilant of their surroundings to be like, I think this is happening, but they just turn a blind eye because they're like, maybe I'm crazy. What advice would you give those people?
There's a lot of resources online. One that comes to mind is from Operation Underground Railroad. We helped them organize the Rise Up for Children protest in July. It was a global movement, but they have a course online about recognizing the signs and indicators of human trafficking and child abuse. There's great resources everywhere, even Canadian resources. So it's like a hour course. Anyone can do it. It's free. And so that you have a more educated approach to when you recognize there's something wrong and knowing where to go. So there's the Canadian hotline. There's a human trafficking hotline for Canada. Anytime you suspect something, you can call as well.
That's perfect. I want to get that from you because we want to link it in our episode notes as well, because that would be really helpful.
And save it to your phone, everyone.
And everybody's on their phones anyways. And you're on lockdown. So, I mean, take the time to educate yourself.
Research.
And it's funny because when you brought up how, all these platforms should have a clause where, they should be vigilant in capturing what's being uploaded to their platforms and stuff. So we are a presence on YouTube, and I upload all our YouTube stuff. I don't know if you know this, but there's a box there that you can check is this for children, and does this involve children?
Yeah.
That's not enough. I can always say, no, it doesn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but I remember there's this one time, so my daughter, when she does get screen time, she doesn't watch, she watches YouTube, but now I'm always watching what she's watching. I'm just looking over her shoulder. I was like, oh, what are you doing? Kind of thing. But before, I was just like, oh, she's doing her thing, right? I don't want to helicopter parent. But there was this one time where Mark actually caught, she was watching a video about Mickey and Minnie. It was a bunch of Disney characters. And it was it had to do with something like Elsa or something feeding Mickey shit or something like that. It was really fucked up. And so obviously he stopped it, but he's just like, what the fuck's happening? Like, this should not be on YouTube. And then so we brought it up with a bunch of my friends, and one of my friends, he's actually like a conspiracy theorist. He always tells me, he's the one who told me about Biden. He's the one who told me about Pizzagate, all this stuff. He's like, oh, well, have you heard of Elsagate? And I was like, what the fuck is Elsagate now? And he's like,
I've never heard about that.
yeah, that's another thing where they're trying to infiltrate YouTube and YouTube Kids, even YouTube Kids. Like, if you download YouTube Kids, you think that you're safe. You think, oh, my kids can watch this because it's YouTube Kids. But, you know, obviously there's still going to be people out there who can infiltrate the system and show your kids stuff that they don't want to see or that they shouldn't be seeing. So like, I like that advice that you gave with always just being in tune with your children and having them be honest, because I grew up, just like you said, not like being scared of not being believed. And that really hurt me in the end, because there was a lot of things that I did not tell my parents until later. They're like, why didn't you tell me that? I'm like, I really wasn't in a position to say anything, but I never, ever want my daughter to go through that. And that's part of my childhood trauma that I'm trying to fix, that, like, that generational gap. I'm not blaming my parents or anything. They did their best, but that was unfortunate for me. And so that's something that I can pass on to my daughter, that I just need her to be honest.
Yeah.
So speaking of, sorry, let me gather my thoughts here, because it was literally there, and then it just like, I'm listening and I'm like,
oh, there's so much that comes up.
There's so much that comes up. Oh, here it is. Okay. So I watched this thing on Netflix about algorithms.
Okay.
Okay. And how social media has, you know, like the people that created algorithms or finding certain things. You know, you see those things on your phone. Your phone will predict your next moves.
Yep.
Okay. How advanced are we, but we can't figure out how to see or whatever, child pornography, exploitations. We can figure algorithms. I can figure out what you want to eat. I can figure out everything else, but we can't figure out how we're going to remove disgusting content that shouldn't live or belong there.
Yeah. I really think that the technology is probably there.
100%. If you can figure
How
out,
can they predict our every move, like thought and movement, but they can't figure out one algorithm to infiltrate these terrible, perverted platforms just to search for this material and alert the industry, the companies, and have it removed. I'm sure it's all also being done as well, because, you know, there's Thorn in the States that I think that was founded by Ashton Kutcher. And so
good for you, Ashton Kutcher.
He is a huge advocate, huge done amazing work, and they do, and it's all tech and infiltrating and finding child exploitation material online. Yeah. So, you know, it's being done. I'm really happy that there are a lot of really great organizations that are doing this too. So don't lose hope.
We'll
find them.
As you know, I always tell people, like, I am very pessimistic in my ways, but I'm very optimistic in a lot of things in my life, in humanity, because sometimes when I meet certain people, like meeting you,
Like you,
that I know that there is good in the world, and I'm still hopeful, and I hope people are going to be hopeful, and I hope people I just hope people will just wake up and not just go through the motions of, okay, you know, you go to school, you grow up, you get an education, you get married, you raise kids, you do this. There's all these things that happen in between. Just keep your eyes open. And, you know, I know there's a lot of problems in the world, but exploiting people, especially children who don't know, they are looking to us for guidance.
Yeah. Because they're so helpless and innocent. And it just makes me so mad, too, that people are fighting for their own human rights by protesting downtown, because of the fact that they have to wear a fucking mask. Like,
So think about the other the kids that can't
you know,
fight for their rights.
right. It's like a mask should be the least of your problems. Sorry, I get so worked up when we talk about anti-maskers. I'm just like,
Fuck you all.
just kidding. No, I'm not. Yeah. So definitely this needs to be talked about and spread and just paid attention to.
You know, I totally agree. I mean, and at every chance that you get, just talk about what you've learned or that we continuously learn and just share that information. On Instagram, great resource. Her name is Kate Oseen. She is actually lives in Alberta too, and I believe she works for ACT Alberta. It's the Action Coalition Against Trafficking. And she shares so much information, not about Canada, also in the States. She shares resources, like really nonpartisan, she's not part of any political party. She's just speaking up for children.
What are her
and
socials?
She's great.
Do you know about it off the top of your head?
Social handles.
Ooh, it's at Kate J. Oseen, Oseen.
This is on Instagram?
Instagram.
Okay.
Perfect.
Follow her every day.
So I know that we could probably talk about this forever.
Yes.
But we're almost out of time. So we really appreciate you, Angela, for coming on here, shedding light and educating us and our viewers on child exploitation, because I just finished telling you that I went to I went to a charity here, and that was probably 2 years ago. It's called not in my city, but I didn't even know it was happening in our backyard in Calgary, and that's where I was like, oh my goodness, you know.
Oh yeah, that reminds me. So I wanted to share this with you, just to shed light on the reality of it.
Yeah.
Even here in Calgary, if that's where most of your viewers are, or just for your friends and family. So I was talking to a social worker quite a few years ago, though, so could have changed, but this was the situation back then. Okay, so she worked with sexually exploited children here in Alberta.
Yeah.
At that time, there were only 6 beds for
6
child victims. Yep, 6. And she said in Calgary. So if I asked you, where do you think children are approached by traffickers and predators? What do you think? Off the top of your head.
From the sounds of all the news headlines, it's like grocery stores.
Yeah, it can be grocery stores.
Online.
Yeah.
Yeah, online.
Yeah.
At school.
Yeah.
Train stations.
Yeah.
Malls.
Actually, somebody approached. My grandma lives at my late grandma actually lived where is it, East Village?
Yeah.
There's an old folks home there, and I would visit her. I was waiting for the bus, and one guy literally, I could see this car, because you know my dad's was in the Navy, so he's always teaching me to be super vigilant around my surroundings. So yeah, one guy stopped me, asked me what I was doing and why I was here. I literally ran back into my grandma's house, and I was like, call my dad, and I was like, can you come pick me up? Because
She lived in a scary place.
well, that's when there was a lot
that was the old East Village.
That was the old East Village.
Old
Yeah.
East
The
Village.
old East
They've
Village,
run
yeah.
people out. So people, we can run these people out if we just work together.
Yeah. But the way they approached children, it's very non-assuming. I mean, you know, recruiters and traffickers have this very good way of recognizing, spotting who is vulnerable.
Yeah.
They try to befriend you. Oh, you look like, you know, maybe if you have ratty clothes, or you look like you have low self-esteem. Let me buy you something, you know. And then it turns into more encounters. Well, I bought you something really nice. Like, I bought you a really nice purse. Now you have to repay me in some way. But anyway, the other story that I was getting to was that busts that were happening here in Calgary happened at the Apple store.
What?
At Chinook Mall.
Wow.
What was happening? These children who may not have access to internet at home. They'd sell themselves on, back then it was backpage.com. They always taken down.
Well, how long
Thank
ago
God.
was this?
This was a long time ago then, because Backpage has been down for a while. And so they'd sell themselves on there. But you can sell yourself on Kijiji.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, you can sell yourself on Facebook too. So they would use the iPads to sell themselves and meet up with a John. Yeah, at the Apple Store, and this is happening right in front of our eyes.
Oh, do you know? Is Apple doing anything about this?
That I don't know. That I don't know, and hopefully that's not the case right now. But that was happening in our city.
I think the biggest message here is we understand, we see, like sometimes like I'll be scrolling something and there will be a hidden hyperlink, but I'd accidentally click it because I'm scrolling so much and something would pop up, porn would come up, everything would come up. I guess what I'm asking our viewers and people are out there, if you see something, just report it.
Yeah.
Say something.
Just say something.
See something. Say something.
Yeah.
Say something.
Because you could, if it's nothing, hey, it's nothing.
Yeah.
But you could save somebody's life. Like that flight attendant who identified a human trafficking victim. And she reported to the captain, and officers were on the tarmac ready to arrest the person that was accompanying the child, who was actually a trafficker. Yeah.
Guys, all I'm saying is make sure to follow One Body Village, educate yourself.
Yep. And go to onebodyvillage.org.
Yep.
On Instagram, you are at
One Body Village Canada.
Canada.
Yep.
And it'll tell you exactly everything Angela and her team are doing. And it'll educate you a little bit more on how you can help.
Yeah. And we'll also throw that link to that you were telling us about with the
human trafficking hotline in Canada.
Yeah, so,
sure.
like, man, I could sit here all day, but before we go, what message would you like to tell the kids that are exploited today, that are currently in that situation? What do you want to tell them right now?
I want to tell them that we haven't forgotten about you. And we're coming for you. Yeah.
I cried on the last episode, so I don't want to cry anymore. But
it was heavy today. It was heavy. But we totally 100% appreciate you being here. We totally lucked out that you were even here in the city because,
I mean, thank you for giving us a voice. I mean, this is what it takes, just more people.
More people.
Yeah.
Yep.
this is not the last that you'll see of Giselle
Of
and I,
course not.
Angela.
I don't
Yes.
Because, guys, moms, dads, as moms, we can wreck shit up because I know I can. So let's work together.
Yeah.
Let's do something
Yeah.
about it. And anybody who wants to continue working and shedding light to this cause, slide right into our DM, slide into Angela's DM, and let's bring those rich fuckers down.
Yeah.
I may not have a lot of money, but I got a big loud mouth.
We need that.
It's gotten you this far. So thank you so much again, Angela. Your work has inspired us, and we will 100% continue to be advocates for this cause.
Thank you.
Yes,
so much.
thank you. So that's it for today, Ham Fam. As usual, we love hearing the feedback. Keep sending those messages to us. You inspire us all the time. We love you guys. And don't forget to subscribe to our our YouTube channel. And remember, we're now on Facebook, so give us a like. Remember to wash your hands, wear your masks, love yourself even on the hardest days, and be kind to one another because it's really important right now. Okay?
Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.